ambitious hike.
Absolutely. Shireen, over to you. You have someone who will perhaps defend the current dispensation better.
Well, you're talking to the business community, you're talking to the investor community, Lata, and it's time now to also talk politics. So joining us now is Congress spokesperson Salman Soz. Salman Soz, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. In the midst of that economic vision that he laid out, Narendra Modi also made several jibes at the government, particularly at Finance Minister Chidambaram. But the fact of the matter is that while you can talk about the average rate of growth over the 10-year period of the UPA, as Mr. Modi pointed out, you inherited an economy that was at 8.4, you leave an economy with a growth rate of 4.8, and that is going to stick with voters. Are you not at a great disadvantage, Salman Soz, today?
Well, I think
Salman, can you hear me?
the NDA, the BJP, and Mr. Modi in particular have had a penchant for... Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello? You can, okay. So I was just saying that Mr. Modi and the BJP have had this penchant for sticking to 1 year of growth and just, parading it around. But the fact of the matter is that, averages do matter. The reason they matter is because ultimately you have to have compound growth. That's what probably business communities understand, CAGRs and all that. Ultimately, where did you start and where did you end up? But, during the BJP's time, the fact is that their average growth rate was not just below UPA's, but it was below the growth rate of earlier times. But I don't really want to get into the details of growth rates. This is not a discussion about growth rates. This is a discussion about what Mr. Modi calls his vision, and it is about the economic policies that they would pursue if they were to be returned to power by the people. In this
I don't want to quibble with you on the average rate of growth, Salman Soz, but let me ask you a specific question, because as part of the economic vision that Narendra Modi laid out today, there seems to be an emphasis to actually move away from the entitlement-based schemes as have been envisioned by the UPA and move them to more asset-creating schemes. For instance, the NREGS. Several times over, whether it was Mr. Modi or it was Arun Jaitley, they talked about how they want to make the NREGS linked to asset creation, linked to productivity. There is a sense that I get from my conversations with Congress party officials that there is perhaps a rethink even within the Congress about how to deal with these entitlement-based schemes, and could you perhaps review the NREGS yourself?
Look, Shireen, I know there's a lot of talk about entitlements and SOPs and populism, or this is bad and that is bad, but time and time we've seen that the BJP supports the legislation that we bring to Parliament, and then they go around our backs and then they go to TV studios and start opposing things. I challenge the BJP to say that they're going to get rid of Narega tomorrow if they were to come to power. I challenge them. I challenge Mr. Modi to say.
Talking about getting rid of Narega.
The fact of the matter is that Narega has actually put a wage, kind of a floor. No, they won't. They cannot. Look, you know what they said about the food security bill, for example? They said you did not go far enough. Mr. Modi should have said that today in front of all these investors. Oh, by the way, the UPA did not do a good job with the Food Security Act because they did not do more. And then I would see what they would say, because that's what they've been saying on TV programs. Look, ultimately, India is going to progress if we all progress together. The business community is extremely important. Private sector jobs are extremely important. Private investment is extremely important. At the same time, we will never really be a developed country if we have a huge population that is really behind. We cannot leave them behind. I think that is a fundamental difference between the BJP and the Congress party. I think their model is trickle-down economics. I think fundamentally that is what Arvind Panagaria, who's their kind of spiritual guru, economic guru, and Mr. Jagdish Bhagwati, that is their model. But it is a failed model around the world.
Congress of being part of the Amartya Sen brand of economics. But Salman Soz, We're running out of time. Let me ask you a few specific questions now. I asked you whether there was a review or a rethink as far as your welfare schemes were concerned. Let me ask you another question that has been debated here by Narendra Modi, and this is the structure of economic federalism, giving states more power, including states in decision making, not to have a one-size-fits-all approach. The Cabinet Committee on Investment, for instance, should include state chief ministers, because after all, a lot of these clearances are at the state level as well. Will you reconsider the way that you approach the execution challenge, the way that you approach the infrastructure challenge, the way that you have tried to go about addressing that through the Cabinet Committee on Investment? Could there be perhaps a review of trying to include states in the decision-making process or give more power to them?
Well, if we had a static kind of decision-making model, then the UPA, the Congress, would be nowhere. I think ultimately, whenever you have policies in place, you try to see how they got implemented, what worked well, what did not work well, and of course we have to do that too. But Mr. Modi very nicely says things about the federal structure of this country, but who are the people who actually stopped the GST from happening? It would have been a wonderful reform program, but they stopped it. I mean, they put roadblocks after roadblocks, for policies that should have been implemented in their states. The reason is it's politics for them. And now he's going to take that moral high ground and say we should all be working together. Where was he all this time? Do you know, for example, that there's by the way, a small scholarship scheme for minorities, just as an example. All states have implemented it except Gujarat. And he went to the High Court to challenge it, got rejected, went to the Supreme Court, rejected. These people talk a good game, but when it comes to actual implementation, let me turn this around and ask Mr. Modi, who talks about, say, manufacturing, we got to have smart cities, we got to do industrial stuff. Why is it that after all this time, now Gujarat, if you look at the Gujarat industrial growth rates, in 2011-12, that's the latest data I have, it's ranked 22nd. Manufacturing, 19th. I mean, I'm not talking about social development indicators. I'm talking about hard infrastructure stuff. Why are they so... Roads. Their growth rate in the last 10 years has not even matched the national average. Why don't you people ask them those questions?
I was hoping you would talk about what the Congress is going to focus on, but it is inevitable that you will talk about what Mr. Modi is not doing as opposed to what the Congress ought to be doing. Unfortunately, we ran right out of time, but appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Well, that pretty much sums up the political reactions along expected lines, Lata, as we've been discussing through the day today. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Shireen. Yeah, that's true that the underhand or the underlying tone of wanting to score against each other definitely will dominate both Congress, BJP, and why only Congress and BJP? It will dominate everyone's manifestos. But we have to thank our guests at this point. Deepen, Mr. Seshasai, Mr. Mohandas Pai, Sanjay Dutt, Shubir Gokaran, and the guests who joined Shireen. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on this special show to discuss what Mr. Narendra Modi has in store for us if indeed an NDA coalition were to come to power. Thank you very much. Time now for the general news after a short break.